This is the RTE News on 2. The headlines tonight. The HSE threatens further legal action against pharmacies breaching state contracts to dispense drugs. A teenage boy is in custody after being charged in connection with a knife attack on a Garda. Let's get physical. Health chiefs call for a more active lifestyle to head off obesity crisis.
And in sports, Stephen Hunt leaves the Ireland squad to tie up a move to Hull City, while Kevin Doyle looks set to play in Wednesday's friendly against Australia.
Good evening and welcome. The HSE is threatening further legal action against pharmacies that may be breaching state contracts to dispense drugs. Earlier today, two big pharmacy groups agreed to continue operating the state community drug schemes after the High Court adjourned an action taken by the Executive. This evening, the HSE said people appear to be having less difficulty getting medicines.
Two large pharmacy chains have agreed to continue dispensing medication under state community drug schemes after the High Court today adjourned an action taken by the HSE. 35 pharmacies in the Hickey and Bradley groups were compelled to dispense medicines under an interim injunction granted to the HSE on Friday. Today in the High Court, both groups agreed to abide by the order until September, when the next stage of the action will be heard. On the 10th day of this dispute, the HSE said reports from around the country suggested that people were having less difficulty getting their medicines. The Executive said it will contact pharmacies that may not be honouring their contracts, warning them they too could face court action. As GP surgeries opened after the weekend and fresh prescriptions were being issued to patients all around the country, here in Dublin the Boots chain said it was another very busy day. Customers are facing delays and priority is being given to urgent prescriptions. Unicare, which has over 70 stores around the country, said things were calmer today.
It has been quiet within the last 7 days, but we are trying to catch up with the regular running of the pharmacy because last week was really busy and had the team here in the Ashleaf under serious pressure.
Some customers said they could cope with a short delay in getting their drugs.
Arthritis medication, I've come in here, the young girls say to me that they'll keep me a half an hour. There's no problem in that. I think they're working so hard, they're lovely ladies here and they do a great job.
Health Minister Mary Harney has said that all pharmacies that hold state contracts must be fully compliant with their obligations before a meeting that has been sought by the Irish Pharmacy Union can take place. Fergal Bowers, RTE News, Dublin.
A teenage boy is in custody tonight after being charged in connection with a knife attack in Westport at the weekend, which left a Garda seriously wounded. The 16-year-old cannot be named because he is a juvenile.
In the early hours of yesterday morning, 32-year-old Garda Darrell Mullen was stabbed and seriously injured in an incident here at James Street in Westport. Today, a teenager was brought before Mullingar District Court charged in connection with that incident. The 16-year-old, who can't be named because he's a juvenile, faces a single charge that on August 9th he assaulted Garda Mullen, causing him harm, contrary to Section 3 of the Non-Fatal Offences Against the Person Act. Sergeant Pat Lavelle from Westport Garda Station told the court that he had arrested and charged the youth yesterday afternoon. When he read the charge to him, the accused replied no. Inspector Kieran Key said Gardaí were seeking to have the teenager remanded in custody to St Patrick's Institution and be brought before Castlebar District Court on Wednesday. The solicitor for the accused, James Hanley, said they weren't opposing the Garda application. The defendant, who was accompanied by his mother, didn't speak during the 3-minute hearing. He was also granted free legal aid. Judge Conall Gibbons remanded the accused in custody to St Patrick's Institution to appear before Castlebar District Court on August 12th next. At the request of the defence, he also ordered that the accused be medically and psychiatrically examined during his time there. Richard Delling, RTE News, Mullingar District Court.
Strong earthquakes struck off the coasts of India and Japan within 10 minutes of each other tonight. An earthquake measuring 7.6 on the Richter scale struck in the Indian Ocean off the Andaman Islands. The quake has triggered a tsunami watch for all coastal countries in the region. A strong earthquake with a preliminary magnitude of 6.6 also shook the Japanese capital of Tokyo and surrounding areas tonight. As yet, there are no reports of injuries or damage in either country. As powerful storms continue to ravage eastern Asia, there are fears that a mudslide triggered by torrential rain may have buried up to 600 villagers in Taiwan. Typhoon Morakot has been downgraded, but not before it forced the evacuation of 1 million people from coastal areas of China.
Morakot has now been downgraded from a typhoon to a tropical storm, but Taiwan is still struggling to cope with its impact. 14 people are now known to have died, and work is continuing to get help to stranded survivors. But there are now fears that death toll could grow. This is the village of Shaolin. A mudslide triggered by torrential rain is thought to have buried around 600 people here. Villagers have described being unable to contact relatives for 3 days. In China, 1 million people were forced to leave coastal areas by the typhoon. It's now estimated that €47 million in damage was caused in Fujian province alone. Japan too has begun a major clear-up operation. Tropical storm Ito brought strong winds and heavy rains, forcing 47,000 people to flee their homes. 10 people were killed in flash flooding. Mudslides levelled homes and broke up roads. The storm is now around 200 kilometres off the coast, but is heading towards land, so more dangerous conditions are expected. Ray Colgan, RTE News.
Back home, and the Children and Youth Affairs Minister, Barry Andrews, has said as a society we shouldn't overreact to swine flu. The warning came as students were sent home from 2 Irish colleges in West Donegal with suspected swine flu. Both colleges remain open and classes are continuing. Coláiste the Wirra in Lochanuir in West Donegal has closed its doors until next Saturday after 11 students tested positive for swine flu 2 days ago. Its headmaster is hopeful that 300 students sent home from the Irish Language College will be able to return.
We've been in contact with HSE and they've been in contact with us basically since this started, and they have told us that we are good to open on Saturday morning, and they've given us a couple of guidelines. For example, they said when the college reopens, children who have been ill may return 7 days after the onset of symptoms, and obviously children with symptoms should not return.
Local Manachi in Lochanuir are also hopeful they'll be back.
What we're doing at the moment is we are cleaning, preparing the house, and everything is ready for Saturday. So we're just waiting for word and hanging in tight there.
A few miles away, 14 students were sent home from Ranafast College near Annagry after 5 presented with suspected swine flu symptoms. Another 2 Irish language students with similar symptoms were sent home from Coláiste the Mahara Rowerty near Gortahurk. Neither school has closed and classes are continuing. The HSE is urging people to adhere to simple health measures to prevent the spread of the virus, such as washing hands and covering one's mouth and nose with a tissue when coughing or sneezing. The government is urging people not to panic.
It's also important not to present to doctor surgeries unless there is a serious underlying condition, and to try to keep yourself up to date with the various information that's emerging. And it is an emerging situation. The HSE aren't 100% sure of how it's going to play out in Ireland, but I think caution at this stage should be the watchword.
Meanwhile, British experts have questioned the policy of giving antiviral drugs to children for swine flu, saying they rarely prevent complications and may carry more serious side effects. Minister Andrews said there are potential side effects to any prescribed drug. 1 man has died and a second is in a critical condition in hospital after a workplace accident in County Louth. It's believed both were overcome by fumes while working in a silo at Drummond's Feeds in Knockbridge. Fine Gael has accused the bigger supermarkets of cloak and dagger practices. The party claims the forced payment of €160 million in hello money by Irish suppliers to large supermarket chains is jeopardising thousands of jobs here. Today, the opposition published a draft bill which seeks to ban what it says are illegal practices in the grocery sector. The partner of a man missing from his County Wicklow home for 4 days has appealed for the public's help in finding him. There are fears that 26-year-old Stephen O'Mara of Rose Hill may have been abducted.
This is Stephen O'Mara, who hasn't been seen since he left his home at Rose Hill outside Wicklow town last Thursday at around 6 o'clock. His disappearance is totally out of character. His family are seriously concerned for his safety.
And the last time I seen him, he walked out of Rose Hill down the steps. It's the last time I seen him on Thursday evening at around 6 o'clock.
And that's the last that you've seen or heard from him?
Seen or heard from him, and it's not Steve, and he always contacts me.
Yeah, always. Shortly after Stephen left his home, his partner Catherine rang him. He said he'd be back in an hour. He hasn't been seen since. The last reported sighting is of Stephen walking down these steps last Thursday night. It's not known if there was a car waiting for him on this road, or if he continued walking uphill, or perhaps continued walking downhill towards nearby Wicklow town.
There is the possibility that Stephen may have gone missing of his own account. Or, there may be something more sinister in it, in that, somebody may have taken him against his will, or worse still, that he may have come to some serious harm.
A large number of searches have again been carried out in South County Wicklow today as part of the investigation into the disappearance of Stephen O'Mara. Gardaí believe there are people who know or suspect what has happened to him. His heartbroken family are urging the public to help them.
If anyone knows anything, just to contact the guards, because he's missing 4 days and it's not like him, and we're really worried about him, and he has 3 little kids here.
Barry Cummins, RTE News.
5 people, including 3 children, have died in a fire at an apartment building in the northeast of Paris. Police said about 30 people were evacuated after fire broke out on the 7th floor of the 9-storey building in the suburb of Sevran. At one stage, 150 firefighters tackled the blaze. Police on the Spanish island of Mallorca have introduced tight security measures across the region after a series of bomb attacks blamed on the separatist ETA group. Investigators say they are now searching for a woman they believe planted 3 bombs that killed 2 and caused widespread fear on the holiday islands, traditionally popular with families. Now, a survey has found that 1/3 of people are so lazy they wouldn't even run to catch a bus. The findings of the survey, which was carried out in Britain, are worrying reading. Health chiefs here have warned that unless Ireland becomes more health conscious, obesity could swamp our health service.
It's not always easy.
Suck it up, suck it up, suck it up.
And sometimes being lazy is more enjoyable, even for these fit people.
Do you think it's easy to fall into the lazy rut?
Unfortunately, being Irish, I'd love to say it's not, but it's a little bit too easy.
We usually send the text around 5:30, kind of saying that we not want to go, and then when the others kind of say that, like, come on, let's all go together, it makes it a lot easier then.
A survey in Britain has found that 1/3 of people won't run to catch the bus. More than half take the lift rather than walk 2 flights of stairs. And more than 1 in 10 said that if the remote was broken, they'd watch a TV show they didn't like rather than get up and change the channel. 3/4 of people also cited low energy as a reason for not having sex with their partner, while 2/3 say they're often too exhausted to play with their children. And half of dog owners are just too tired at the end of a busy day to walk the dog.
It's the lifestyle that we lead nowadays. I mean, most people are in very busy jobs, they have a lot of pressures going on, they have family pressures, they have financial pressures, especially now. So trying to break out of that cycle can be difficult. And a lot of people aren't aware that these options are here. So, I mean, it's come down to the park, see what's going on, be it this, be it tag rugby, be it all sorts of activities.
Let's get ready to go again. Push your position, getting low.
Around 2/3 of people in Ireland are either overweight or obese. Obesity is blamed for around 2,000 premature deaths in this country every year. And health bosses say unless we get our laziness under control, we're facing a crisis that our health service simply can't manage. Sharon Tobin, RTE News, Dublin.
You're with the RTE News on 2. Still ahead tonight, red planet rocks as fragments from Mars make their way to Ireland. But first, Paul's here with all the day's sports news.
Thanks, Barry. We start with soccer, and Stephen Hunt is on the verge of a move to Hull City. The midfielder left the Republic of Ireland training camp in Tipperary this evening to discuss terms with the Premier League club. But he is expected to return for Wednesday's game against Australia at Thomond Park in Limerick, while his former Reading teammate Kevin Doyle is also expected to take part.
St Michael's FC, the first Tipperary soccer club to host the Republic of Ireland senior squad as they prepare for the game against Australia at Thomond Park on Wednesday. The entire session was open to the public, and bringing the nation's top footballers into the heart of the community was an exercise in good public relations.
What do you think of having the lads here in Tipperary?
It's good, yeah, good for the town, good for the club.
It puts St Michael's on the map.
It's really good.
Why?
Because I'm able to see I'm able to see Given because he's really good goalie, and I like him because he saves lots of goals.
It's brilliant. It's something you probably won't ever see again, like here. Yeah, they're very good players, like, and I really like to watch them. It's good fun.
It's a bit like the Wembley syndrome for England, and it's a bit unfair to be asking people to be travelling all the time to the capital city to watch the team playing, and I think it's a great opportunity to bring the team to the southwest, and hopefully we'll give them a performance that they'll want to come back for more against South Africa in September.
Should be good. I mean, the stadium, I feel about 26,000, and I mean, if it's full, then should be a good atmosphere.
Striker Kevin Doyle made the trip, even though he's recovering from a hernia, and competition for places is keen as the new season begins.
It's a great chance for us to try the team that'll play against Cyprus. I'm sure the manager is thinking that way. That's the way he's been speaking anyway in the last couple of days, that we're going to have a team that be largely the team that will face Cyprus in September, and we all know how crucial a match that is. So,
as a PR exercise, the Republic of Ireland coming to the heart of the Golden Vale in Tipperary could be invaluable in capturing the hearts and minds of future generations. At the very least, it'll help sell tickets for the game against Australia in Thomond Park, Limerick on Wednesday. Tony O'Donoghue, RTE News, with the Republic of Ireland squad, Tipperary.
Republic of Ireland under-21 international Jay O'Shea has completed a transfer from Galway United to Birmingham City. The 20-year-old has signed a 2-year deal with the Premier League club. Meanwhile, Leeds United are through to the second round of the Carling Cup after a 1-0 win over Darlington. The only goal of the game was scored by striker Enoch Shawumli in the 54th minute. Croke Park will host a hurling double-header this Sunday. The All-Ireland semi-final between Tipperary and Limerick will be preceded by the minor semi-final between Waterford and Galway. The battle between Tip and Limerick for the right to face Kilkenny in this year's final will start at 3:30. The minor game will throw in at 1:30. Both matches will be shown live on RTE2 television. Padraig Harrington has moved up to 10th in the world golf rankings after his second-place finish in the Bridgestone Invitational. The Dubliner finally found top form ahead of this week's US PGA tournament, but eventually lost out to Tiger Woods.
In the end, it was all about 2 shots. This magnificent 8-iron from Tiger Woods on the 16th, effectively sealing the Americans' victory. Some golf analysts say this is one of the best shots they've ever seen. Padraig Harrington had been leading before his round collapsed, sending this 4th shot at the 16th into the water. An unfortunate end to a great duel. The 2 great golfers will pair up again later this week for the US PGA Championship.
It's 7th heaven for TW and Akron. It's 16 World Golf Championships, 70 wins on tour. And no question, Hazeltine National is next on his agenda.
Well, it was just a great battle. We were locked horns pretty good, and I made a couple mistakes there, and Paddy was just being consistent, grinding it out, and doing all the things you need to do. And unfortunately, 16 happened, but it was just a great battle all day.
And that's all the sport for now. It's back to you, Mary.
Thanks, Paul. Now, stargazers got the chance to examine a piece of the red planet right here in Ireland tonight, thanks to the National Museum. Recently purchased rock fragments from Mars, the Moon and other meteorites were shown off at Trinity College.
So rare is this 15-milligram piece of Mars rock, it's worth 30 times its weight in gold. It's part of a meteorite that can be traced to Mars using gas samples found within it. The National Museum has spent €25,000 buying it and other samples to grow Ireland's collection of space rocks.
It's very good. It's an exceedingly fine specimen. They're very rare, and we're glad to get it.
It's in unspoilt environments such as the Antarctic that most meteorite discoveries are made. Around 30,000 have been identified on Earth, but only 34 have been confirmed as Martian, using data from successive missions to the Red Planet. Building on a collection that began with a gift from the first landing on the Moon, this piece of Mars was originally found in the Sahara Desert in Morocco and is now available to view and to study by enthusiasts here in Ireland.
We're trying to promote a science culture for Ireland and to inspire especially young people
to look up at Mars. It's going to be closest to the Earth around Christmas. It'll be extremely bright in our sky, and to think a piece of it is now almost within their grasp. They won't have to wait to be a Mars astronaut in about the year 2030 and spend $100 billion going there.
Tonight, Earthlings got to see the extraterrestrial rocks at a special presentation in Trinity College. Tomorrow, and for the next year, they'll be on display at the National Museum in Collins Barracks, Dublin. Ty Genwright, RTE News, Trinity College, Dublin.
Finally tonight, up to 100,000 people are expected to visit Puck Fair in Killorglin over the coming 3 days. One of the oldest traditional fairs in the country. It's estimated to be worth up to €6 million to the local economy. And that's Monday's RTE News on 2. We're back tomorrow at 11:30. Till then, from Paul, me and everyone on the team, good night and take care.